The Switch and Switch 2 have a solid RPG library, better than a lot of people give them credit for. This list covers 10 games worth your time. Some are Switch originals, some are recent ports, and all of them are worth sitting with for a while. Let's get into it. Fire Emblem Three Houses gives you a lot to manage. You're Byleth, a mercenary hired on as a professor at Garreg Mach Monastery, and you pick one of 3 student houses to lead, each tied to a different political faction in a war that properly starts in the second half of the game. Before any of that, you're in a teaching loop, building relationships, training students, making decisions that carry weight later. The tactical combat is solid throughout, weapon triangle, terrain advantages, permadeath if you want that pressure. What makes it stick is that every house route covers the same conflict from a different angle, and some of those angles get genuinely dark. The routes don't feel like cosmetic variations on each other. Each one changes who lives, who ends up fighting against you, and what the ending actually means. Long game, and it earns every hour. Dragon Quest XI's is a traditional JRPG that doesn't apologize for being one. You play as the Luminary, a young man who discovers he's the reincarnation of a legendary hero, which carries more complications than that sounds like. The story opens wide and adventurous before getting considerably heavier in its second act, and that shift is earned. The turn-based combat is clean, with a pep system that builds up over fights and triggers powerful party combo attacks. The characters are warm and well-written in the way Dragon Quest tends to do better than most. The S Edition adds a full 2D mode that lets you play the entire game in a 16-bit style, extra storylines for each companion, orchestrated music, and a Japanese voice track. It's a generous package for a game that was already long. If classic JRPGs are your thing, this gets the formula right. Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. It packages both the original Final Fantasy Tactics and the PSP's War of the Lions together, now with updated visuals, full voice acting, reworked menus and UI, autosave, and new animated cutscenes. The story follows Ramza Bjulv, a noble pulled into a war driven far more by political corruption and class resentment than any kind of real heroism, and the narrative still holds up well today. The job system is the core of it. You're constantly unlocking class combinations, learning abilities, and assigning them across your squad in ways that feel personal to how you play. The difficulty spikes are real and unforgiving if you walk into a key fight underprepared or short on levels. If you've never played it before, this is the right version to start with.
I must act wisely.
Unicorn Overlord is a strategy RPG where battles resolve automatically based on the tactics you configure beforehand. You play as Alan, a prince rebuilding an army to take back his kingdom, and the core of the game is constructing your squads. Which unit types to pair together, what passive abilities to slot in, how to position things against different terrain and enemy compositions. It goes reasonably deep once you're past the opening hours. Outside of combat, you're liberating towns, completing side quests, and building out a roster that eventually covers over 60 recruitable characters with different abilities and roles. Vanillaware's hand-drawn art is consistent and strong throughout the whole thing. It came out in early 2024 and didn't get the attention it deserved. It's a well-constructed strategy RPG that rewards time spent thinking through your squad setups.
It's up to you. I shall protect you. Does this suit you?
Trails in the Sky, First Chapter. This is a full remake of a 2004 Falcom RPG, rebuilt for Switch 2 with entirely new visuals, full voice acting, a reworked combat system, and quality of life improvements across the board. You follow Estelle and Joshua Bright, step-siblings starting out as bracers freelance peacekeepers licensed by the state in a region called Liberl. The story opens slowly and episodically, before building towards something much more substantial in the later chapters. Combat mixes real-time and turn-based mechanics, using an orbment system for equipping abilities that's approachable but has real depth underneath. The voice cast is solid. Stephanie Shea and Johnny Young Bosch lead it. Early pacing is the main sticking point, but Trails has always been a deliberate, slow build. This is the cleanest entry point into the series, and the second chapter remake is confirmed for late 2026. Persona 5 Royal doesn't leave much room for argument. You play as Joker, a transfer student in Tokyo who forms a group of phantom thieves that enter the distorted minds of corrupt adults and force a change in their behavior from the inside out. The social sim layer, building confidant relationships, studying, part-time work, managing your stats across multiple categories, is as deliberately designed as the dungeon crawling and turn-based combat. And the two sides genuinely feed into each other throughout the game. Royal extends the base game with a third semester, a new character, new mechanics, and a story route that reframes a lot of what came before it. Around 100 hours of content, if you engage with most of it. The visual design has become a reference point for other games in the genre since release, which says something about where it lands.
Persona! Go down!
Final Fantasy X/10-2 HD Remaster. FF10 is one of the better JRPGs made, and the Switch Remaster is a comfortable way to play it. You follow Tidus, a blitzball player from a futuristic city who ends up transported to Spira, a world locked in a religious cycle of destruction tied to a monster called Sin. The story deals with grief and the narrative's communities build around loss, and it tends to land harder on replays than it did the first time through. The conditional turn-based battle system gives you full information at all times. You always see the turn order, and mid-fight party swapping makes it one of the more tactically flexible setups in the genre. The Sphere Grid is a strong progression system. The remaster includes international content, Dark Aeons, and penance for serious endgame challenge. 10-2 is also included. Lighter in tone and more action-based, but better than its reputation suggests. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade came to Switch 2 in January 2026, and the port holds up well. It covers only the Midgar section of the original FF7, but expands it into a 30-plus hour game, giving every character considerably more development than the original ever had room for. Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, and Barret all land well. Characters like Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie go from minor background figures to people you actually care about by the time things wrap up. The combat blends real-time action with ATB resource management, and plays well once you settle into the rhythm of it. The Switch 2 version targets 30 frames per second, looks solid in both docked and handheld modes, includes the Yuffie-focused Intergrade DLC, and adds streamlined progression accessibility options for people who want them. FF7 Rebirth is also released for Switch 2.
If we rush in, we die.
Is that right?
Need to hit it with magic.
What are you, 20-something?
Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is probably the strongest entry in the series. The world is Ionios, two nations in permanent war, where soldiers live exactly 10 years before their life force gets consumed by the system that created them. You play as Noah and Mio, fighters from opposing sides, who end up working together once the conflict stops making sense to either of them. The real-time combat has a lot of moving pieces. Party roles, class swapping across characters, and an interlink system that merges paired characters into stronger combined forms mid-battle. It takes some time to get comfortable with, but the mechanical depth is real once it clicks. The story is about living inside systems designed to keep people from questioning them, and it handles that theme with more care than most RPGs bother to put into that kind of material. Long game, but the pacing mostly holds.
Enemy's broken away from me! Come here! I got something for you!
Cheers, you're dead.
Uppercut! Nothing going right!
Cyberpunk 2077 had a rough launch in 2020. What's on Switch 2 now is a substantially different game in most of the ways that matter. You play as V, a mercenary in Night City who ends up with the imprint of a dead rock legend Johnny Silverhand stuck in their head, and not a lot of time left to work out what to do about it. The 2.0 RPG overhaul added genuine depth, skill trees built around specific playstyles, meaningful perk choices, and cyberware that actually changes how you move through and engage with the world. The side missions are consistently well written for an open-world game. Phantom Liberty, the spy thriller expansion, is fully included and works well as a self-contained story. The Switch 2 port has gyro aiming, quality and performance modes, and cross-save support. Frame drops happen in dense areas, but the port is solid overall.
Someone's coming our way. This does not look good.
Stop your vehicle immediately.
Let's get out of here!
On it!
That's the 10. If you're looking for a starting point, Cyberpunk and Persona 5 Royal cover the most ground depending on what kind of RPG you're after. Everything else on the list is worth getting to when you have the time. Drop your own ranking in the comments. Thanks for watching.